Do you know what really sucks? Is sitting down to edit your project and realizing that you have gaps in your coverage or shots missing. You need to have a really good, specific, and detailed shot list. Head over to filmmakersecrets.com/shot list, SHOTLIST, to get a killer shot list template along with some training where I show you step by step exactly how to use it. Time is our most important asset. It's our most valuable asset. So why not try our best and expand the amount of money that we can make by serving the client, by serving the production company, whoever it is that we're working with value, with a result. Filmmakers have the power to evoke emotion, inspire thought, and drive universal change in this world. Right now, a real seismic shift is happening in the film industry. This is your best chance to join a new filmmaking movement. You have been called to create an everlasting impact with your unmatched, deep desire to tell authentic stories. So how does a filmmaker thrive in an environment that is almost intentionally designed to bring you down? That is the question, and this podcast reveals the answer. What's happening, filmmakers? It's George VK. Welcome to Filmmaker Secrets, episode number 50. We have made it to the big 50, and it is super exciting because there are so many things that I've learned over the last 3 years and the last couple of years that I've been doing Filmmaker Secrets podcast. And I felt like this episode 50, was the perfect opportunity for me to share those lessons and techniques and strategies that I've learned over those 3 years, but also it's been accumulating over the last, it's been about 14 years that I've been doing this crazy thing called filmmaking. So today I wanted to distill all of that information into the 3 biggest lessons that I've learned over the last 3 years. So let's start off with lesson number 1. Lesson number 1, if you can't guess, was all about story, right? It's the most important thing. I talk about this all the time, but story is going to be the thing that gets you over that hurdle, over that next level, get you to that sort of next summit as you're climbing the mountain of your filmmaking career. And the thing that I always think about story is that it's more or less an equation, right? Because there's a certain way of going about telling your stories, and it's never going to be the same for every filmmaker, but there are some very basic fundamental principles that we need to keep in mind when we think about story. And so the equation that I have is a winning film equals story plus visceral reaction, which is the feeling that you evoke from your audience, plus a film race framework. So film race framework plus a visceral reaction plus a really good and compelling story is going to equal a winning film. Now, when I say winning film, what do I mean? It basically, in any definition of the word that you consider for your own success. So if a winning film means that your client comes back with no revisions and they love your project that you made for them and they're happy to pay you and they think that it's almost a discount for the value that you have given the client versus what they paid you to compensate you for your time and your effort and your talent and all the work that culminates in a project. Or perhaps you shot a narrative film or a documentary and you submit it to a film festival, no matter how big or small, and it got accepted and you went to the screening and they got a good reaction from the audience. Perhaps somebody came up to you and said, "Thank you so much for creating this. It spoke to me. It definitely had an impact on my life," right? So that's truly a winning film by your own definition, whatever that means. So winning film, we know what that means now. And then if we get into the story, what makes a truly compelling story? Well, I talk about this all the time as well. With storytelling, you need 3 basic principles. Number 1 is your character. You need to know your character almost better than you know yourself. You need to know their backstories, the things that happened to your character in the past. What are their hobbies, their favorite color, their family situation? Are they married? Do they have kids? Do they like to be more of an extrovert or an introvert? All of those things. And think about your own personality and your own little quirks and things that you like to do. And then convert them into your character traits, the different things that make your character a real human being. And as a real human being, that character will likely have flaws, right? Where nobody's perfect. So there will always be things that are either lacking or perhaps could use improvement, right? I know certainly, judging from your own experiences, you can deduce the things that have flaws that could use improvement. And those are the exact elements that will make your character believable. And the audience will reserve a special place in their heart for your character if they can see that they're not perfect, just like them, right? They have things that they need to work on. And it is that journey that creates the character into this totally, enveloping and enrapturing sort of element of your story. The character is so important. I usually start with the character whenever I'm writing a film. I want to know, I almost have a conversation with that character to really understand who they are, what they stand for. And it's almost like a back and forth, right? And that's how you know that you've reached a really good point in your story when the character starts talking back to you and they're almost writing the story for you, right? The second piece of a good, compelling story is the desire that you give that character. Okay. What do they want? What does that character truly want? And there are two types of desires typically. The first one is in external desire. It's something that is very apparent. And it's something that is very easily introduced towards the very beginning of your story. You identify what that character's desire is from the get-go so that we build up that decorum and we know what that character wants. So let's take an example of The Lion King, right? Simba wants to perhaps escape the current situation after his father is murdered. And he goes, he runs away from his home and he tries to go on this journey to adapt to this new life. So he wants to feel that sort of, outwardly new life and escape the horrible situation that he just went through. So typically it'll be something that the character is striving towards or running away from. Okay. They're either trying to run towards pleasure or run away from pain. So those are the external desires. Now, the second type of desire is an internal desire. It is something that is not necessarily apparent right away. It's something that is deep down and what the character actually needs. And it's something that is usually revealed towards the end after the character's gone through their journey. They've defeated all the villains and they come out on the other side, a newly transformed person or animal in the Lion King sense. It is something that the character truly wanted and it gives them that transformation. Okay. The third element of a really good and compelling story is the conflict. So it is those obstacles, the roadblocks, the villains, and all those things that prevent your character from actually reaching, or they try to prevent your character from reaching their goals and their desires. So the more conflict that we can push on top of our character, then the more believable it's going to be when they actually break through that ceiling and defeat those demons and come out the other side victorious. And that's when we see that transformation. So the more conflict, the more tension that we can infuse into our story that is beating down on our character, then the more we're going to feel that sort of visceral reaction, the sort of, really satisfying ending when the character finally gets what they want. As long as we were rooting for them, then it's going to feel that much better for the audience when they finally get what they want and what they need as well, right? So we have our story and now we need to get a visceral reaction That's that second part of the equation of a winning film. How do we get a true visceral reaction from the audience? Well, that's where all the fun, cool, exciting elements of filmmaking come in. It's the camera choice that you make, the lens choice, the production design, the sound that you're capturing on set, as well as the sound design that you work on in post-production. It's the makeup, the wardrobe, the special effects, the visual effects in post-production. It's all the things that make filmmaking such a collaborative art form and such an exciting art form. And it's sort of this, level playing field where everybody, virtually anyone that wants to be a filmmaker and a real filmmaker, has access to a lot of these tools nowadays. It's really accessible to create any kind of story you want, depending on the resources that you, or depending on how resourceful you can be, right? Because remember, it's not about the resources that you don't have. It's about how resourceful you can be with the tools that you do have. So say you have just an iPhone. Well, as long as you know really how to create and craft really good lighting, as long as you know how to drive really good performances out of your actors, then everything else kind of starts to fall into place. And if we always keep the story at the forefront, that's when we can have real success with our stories, with our films, because story is the most important. So that's visceral reaction. We're infusing all of these different elements on top of our story so that the audience is kept on the edge of their seat and they're wowed and awed every step of the way, so that all of the elements that we're talking about that induce that visceral reaction are congruent and they work really well together in a nice finished package. And so then the final piece of a really good, successful story is what I call the film race framework. And this is something that is truly exciting and I believe to be revolutionary, because I'm sure that how long it takes to produce a really good film, right? It could take months. It could take years. Typically, feature films will take upwards of 5 years and more just for the development phase before you can actually get on set to start shooting, right? And so when we talk about the length of time that it takes to actually produce a film, what if it was possible to shoot a film in a month? Even a short film, sometimes, it could take upwards of months and months of just the whole process, right? You get an idea for your story. You start thinking about it. It starts bubbling up in your mind and all these different story elements start popping up. And then you actually sit down to write the script and you're so excited, but then you get stuck on page 2 and you're not sure what plot point 1 is going to be or what the conflict needs to be, how to raise that tension so that the release of the tension is that much more satisfying. And then you finally get through your script, you finish it, you finish typing, fade out. And now the real challenge begins, because now you have to find a crew. You have to cast your actors. You have to gather all of the props and proper wardrobe pieces. And you have to think about how you're going to feed your crew with catering and crafty. Then you have to schedule your shoot and make sure that you have enough of a budget, right? The funding is a big part of it too, to actually have enough time on set to finish everything and all these things that you've imagined and dreamed up, because you don't want to be compensating and you don't want to ever settle, but you also want to be realistic with the budget, right? The budgetary restrictions that you have typically dictate how much of a flexibility you're going to have when you're actually shooting your project. And so that can take weeks or even months. And then you get it in the can, principal photography is wrapped, and now you have to sit down to edit your film, right? And that can last months and months of back and forth with different revisions. If you have a VFX person, then they're sending back, VFX shots one after the other. Then you're doing audio sweetening, you're doing sound design, somebody's composing your music, then you have to integrate that music. And then you sit there and wait for the file to render, only to realize that there are so many mistakes after you watch it back. So you go back to your editing software and you start making tweaks and exporting again. I'm sure you know this story. If you've ever made a film before, I'm sure. I mean, raise your hand, right? Raise your hand right now, even though I can't see you. If you have ever gone through this process and you were ready to pull your hair out because it was just so frustrating. What if there was a framework where you could actually write, shoot, and edit a film in under 48 hours without having to buy expensive gear or hire a large crew or go broke from all the things that you have to purchase? I've definitely been in that situation where your bank account is kind of slim, but you still want to make this movie. So you start charging your credit card and buying gear that you never actually end up using, or it gets broken, or, a multitude of other things and challenges that you're faced with as an independent filmmaker. And so, over the years, I've been doing so many different film races, and this is basically a competition, a filmmaking competition where you're given a limited amount of time. So 48 hours, sometimes it's 24 hours, 100 hours. But the basic idea is you're given a genre. You randomly pull a genre from a hat, and then you're given 3 elements. Typically they're character, a line of dialogue, and a prop. And those 3 elements have to be included in your script and in your final film project so that the organizers of the film race know that you shot that and you wrote that film within that set frame. So can you imagine this process of receiving these elements? The clock is ticking down from 48 hours. You only have 48 to finish it. And so you write it, you shoot it, and edit it all in that time frame. So by the end of 48 hours, you actually have a finished project, a finished film. And sure, it may not be perfect. There may be things that you need to sort of massage and adjust as you go, but you have a really good product by the end of the 48 hours. And so combining story, combining that visceral reaction and the film race framework, you have a winning film really quickly, really fast, that then you can start shopping around to other filmmakers to network with. You can send it out to potential clients so that they can see the type of work that you do and potentially hire you for a project because they want a story-driven promotion or a commercial or anything like that. This is such a powerful tool, and it's something that's proven to be so lucrative over the last 14 years that I've been doing this, because I've applied it to every facet of filmmaking. Even in my current day job, we have to churn out work really fast. Oftentimes we'll go on location to just different parts of the world where a corporation sends us for an incentive trip to cover the attendees having a great time, drinking and dancing and doing all these different activities in these luxurious resorts and beautiful, just beautiful places. I've been to Dominican Republic. I've been to Prague. I've been to Portugal, outside of the US, but then also within the US, I've been traveling so much. And you basically have to cover the event and then edit as you're shooting. So typically it'll be a team of 2, 3, or more, depending on the scope of work. And by the end of the event, you actually show that video. So a lot of times you will only have 48 hours to do an on-site recap, as it's called. So you're recapping the whole event. So the attendees go to this beautiful location. They're having fun. They're experiencing all these things. And then by the end, instead of just forgetting all the things they experienced, they get a finished product, a finished video that they can then watch and relive their experience yet again, send it out to their friends and family to show off and to brag, look at where I've been, right? But clients pay a lot of money for that sort of reaction from an audience, because that immediate sort of result gives them the satisfaction and that feeling of being at the event and that visceral reaction they get from seeing it, almost immediately. And so story, visceral reaction, film race framework. If you want to learn more, I'm doing a free training tomorrow, actually. So that's going to be Thursday, February 10th. And if you miss it, it's okay, because I'll be doing more in the future. But I urge you to save your spot for this training. It's going to be free, so it doesn't cost you anything. And it's called the Film Race Framework Masterclass, or the Filmmaker Secrets Masterclass. So like I said, it's totally free. If you want to check it out, go ahead and head over to www.filmmakersecrets.com/free. And I'll actually drop it in the chat right now. So you can just click the link. But once again, it's www.filmmakersecrets.com/free. So check it out. Let's move on to the second lesson that I learned over the last 3 years, and that is value-based pricing versus time-based pricing. Okay. So what do I mean by time-based pricing? That is the most common and likely the least effective way to price your work and your services, because what you're doing is you are selling your time for money. So say you want to make $200 a day and you're going to work 8 hours for that day. Okay. So let's do that calculation. 200 divided by 8, you're going to be paid $25 an hour. Okay. And that's something that is very widely used. A lot of different articles and gurus will tell you to, charge a certain amount per hour or per day, like a day rate. And that's typical in the filmmaking world, right? With independent filmmaking, you'll typically give your day rate to whoever wants to hire you. And that's, no matter if it's going to be an 8-hour day, a 10-hour day, or 12-hour day, you give them that rate for that amount of time. And that is what you charge. Okay. Now, what's the problem with time-based pricing? There is going to be a glass ceiling that you're going to hit, and you're not going to know. You're just going to keep hitting your head against this glass ceiling, and you're never going to be able to get past it, because quite frankly, there's only 24 hours in a day, right? And 8 of those, hopefully you're sleeping. I'm trying to get 8 hours of sleep each night, even though oftentimes it becomes 6 or 5 because I'm working late, right? I'm sure you're familiar with that sort of routine where you go to bed late and then you got to wake up in the morning for work or school or whatever it is. But there's only a certain amount of day or of hours in a day. So if you have 16 hours left after the 8 hours of sleep, and then maybe you're working an 8-hour day. So now we're down to 8 hours, but then we also have to eat. So let's take out another couple hours, eat and shower and all the things that you need to do, to live. So we are now down to 6 hours of quote unquote free time that we have to actually do the things that we need to do for the client, for our films. So when we talk about time-based pricing, it becomes very limited really fast. Now let's switch over to value-based pricing. What is value-based pricing? It's, wholeheartedly the absolute best way to look at how to price your work, how to charge what you're actually worth. And value-based pricing means that you are charging for the value that you bring to the other party. So let's say you're doing a wedding film. Okay. So a bride is hiring you to do their wedding video. And instead of going the time-based pricing model where you're saying, I'm going to shoot your 2-day wedding and you're going to get this, this, and this, a highlight reel, maybe the full video, and whatever it is that you're offering, right, with your service. That's going to be X amount of dollars. Well, what if you approach it with the value-based model in mind? So you're pricing your work based on the value that you're going to give the client. Whenever a client comes to you to produce a video, they're not hiring you for a video. They're hiring you to get them a result. because otherwise there's absolutely no reason to be shooting video other than to say, hey, look at how cool we are, right? The client is always looking for an ROI, return on investment. So if they say, I'm going to pay this filmmaker $5,000 to produce my wedding film, then I wanted to get this type of result for me in the end. Whether that's, lifetime memories of this beautiful wedding video that they're going to be able to share with their friends and family, that will bring them years and years of happiness. Or if it's, let's say, a restaurant chain or a gym, like a chain of different gyms, like a fitness, fitness. That's how I do my fitness. You're saying that instead of saying this is how much I charge per hour or this is my daily rate, you're saying this is the value that I'm going to bring you. This is the result that I can get you with this video, right? The video is just the tool. You're not selling the video, you're selling the result. So the result that you can give that fitness gym is that they're going to get a certain amount of signups or leads as a result of this product that you're shooting for them. And obviously it helps to have case studies and past work and results that you've gotten for other customers in the past. But this is the best way to start, is focus on the value that you can bring that client or that bride. You're focusing on the result that the client is going to get as a sort of what's the word that it's the byproduct of your video. The byproduct of your video is the result that you're getting for your client. Okay. So that's the second lesson. Value-based pricing versus time-based pricing. Very important. It's going to really change things for you if you start to have that shift in your mindset. Okay. And the third lesson that I learned over the last 3+ years is all about protecting your confidence. And this is strongly and deeply rooted in your mindset as a filmmaker. Protecting your confidence also has to do with, murdering your ego. The ego has got to go out the door. You got to forget it. Okay. Because as soon as a client or anyone that you're working with starts to get a whiff of ego, they're not going to want to work with you. Have you ever had a situation where you're talking to someone that you want to potentially work with or network with, and you start to get a sense that they are just full of themselves, right? Look at me. And they're using a lot of I and me, those pronouns where they're trying to put their attention on themselves. And so they feel like the world is just revolving around them. They're the most important person, and they have absolutely no regard for what it is that you're looking for how they can help you, how they can help you progress. I'm sure we've all had this, that experience, and you usually get really kind of retracted from that person, right? It's not something that you never want to work with a person that has a big ego. Now, look, ego is something that is always going to be present because we are conscious human beings, right? We have this frontal lobe that's developed as a result of revolution or evolution or whatever that is, right? We have this innate sense of self. I am me. I am here. I am now. I think, therefore I am. Okay. We have a sense of self, but when it becomes troublesome is when we start to turn that into self-serving excuses. So, I deserve this. I need this. So I'm going to do everything in my power to get it. And thus that is the person that we never want to work with. So protecting your confidence and murdering your ego are sort of, they coexist, because if we murder our ego and we let go of the self-serving aspect and instead try to serve others and help other people do whatever it is. So we start with value. We always give until we give so much that we actually start to receive and it starts coming to us. If we focus on giving, then the receiving part will just naturally happen. Okay. So that is the biggest thing when it comes to protecting your confidence, because once you let go of the ego, then you can be really assured in your own way of going about things, in your own way of, doing business, of shooting videos, of interacting with other filmmakers, of being how you behave on a film set, how you talk to other people. Just because that PA, that production assistant, has that title does not mean that they are less deserving to be treated like a human being. Okay. But that doesn't mean that you need to all of a sudden clam up and crawl into your little shell and start feeling sorry for yourself because you can't have your ego be, explosive. You got to protect your confidence. Your confidence is going to exude and attract other like-minded people, like-minded filmmakers that are all working towards the same common goal as you are. Ultimately, we want to be paid for our work in order to survive. This is our craft. This is our bread and butter. This is what we absolutely love to do, to make films, to tell stories, right? And so protecting our confidence and murdering our ego, very important. That is the third lesson. So let's go through very quickly. I appreciate you sticking with me. I know I'm just kind of spitballing and, I just wrote down the 3 lessons and now I'm just riffing, but I believe these to be very important because these have served me very well in the past. So number 1 is story. Most important. A winning film equals a really good, compelling story, plus a visceral reaction, plus the film race framework. Lesson number 2 is all about value-based pricing versus time-based pricing. So make a choice. What do you think? Would you rather be paid for that limited amount of time? And you can't create more time. It's limited, right? Time is our most important asset. It's our most valuable asset. So why not try our best and expand the amount of money that we can make by serving the client, by serving the production company, whoever it is that we're working with value, with a result, something that's going to get them a 10x ROI. Right? They're going to get 10 times more than they invest back as a result of the video that you produce. And lesson number 3, most important, is to murder your ego and protect your confidence. So if that was at all valuable to you, if you found any sort of little pieces, nuggets that you liked, that relate to you, that speak to you, that make you think like, okay, yeah, This guy, George, he knows what he's talking about, right? I'm protecting my confidence. I know a thing or two because I've done this for so long, right? But I also have flaws. I'm a human being and I'm going to be upfront and very vulnerable and honest with you about that. But if this has been at all illuminating in any sort of fashion, then please, I urge you to save your spot for the Filmmaker Secrets Masterclass. It's happening very soon and spots are filling up. So you want to save your registration so that you can actually access the training and you'll get a reminder of when we actually go live. But head over to filmmakersecrets.com/free. And I think you have to include the www just because of how the domain is working right now. But if you click the link down below, it'll be right there. Just input your email so I know where to send your VIP pass to the masterclass. And I promise you it's going to be value packed. Even much more so than this quick little live video. Filmmaker Secrets Podcast is all about giving you value and helping you out on your journey as a filmmaker of creating stories that have the power to change the world. I always say, and it's in the intro of the podcast, filmmakers have the power to evoke emotion, inspire thought, and drive universal change in this world. And that is the power that I urge you to take control of. So if you are still on the fence and you want just a little bit more of a push, I urge you to save your spot for the Filmmaker Secrets Masterclass right now. So head over to www.filmmakersecrets.com/free, FREE. I'll spell it for you, make it real clear. And I'm going to be sharing with you my 3 secrets for how to shoot, write, and edit. Write, shoot, and edit in that order. Winning cinematic films in under 48 hours without having to buy expensive gear or hiring a large crew, or going broke again. Okay. So once again, www.filmmakersecrets.com/free. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for sticking around. I appreciate you. I wish you all the best of luck, all the success to you, filmmakers. Here's to your next story. I'll see you on the next one. If you like that, then you are going to love my Cine Racing Challenge. This is a 7-day filmmaking competition where your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to write, shoot, and edit a short 60-second film in just 7 days for your one chance to win with over $10,000 in prizes. So head over to cineracing.com. That's cineracing.com to get registered. Spots are filling up fast and the timer is ticking before the next Cine Racing Challenge launches. So be sure to head over to cineracing.com right now to get registered. I'll see you over there.